Hey, good afternoon, everyone. For you that don't know me, my name is Mike Peters,
All
and
right,
I have.
Mike, it looks like we are waiting for the attendees to pop on still. So we'll give
Okay.
it 1 second. There they are. Now they're coming. We've got one. There they come. Awesome. All right. Looks like people are sort of piling in. So Mike, whenever you are ready, go for it.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Peters. Those that don't know me, I have the pleasure for serving as your national vice chair. I get to assist Tracy Jones, your chair, and we're glad you joined us today on this call to discuss about all things APIC. And so we have folks from across the country with us today, and this will be our first meeting for 2020. And it serves as a great time. We've got an election year happening. We've got the Congressional conference coming up here in a few months. And so we've got a lot of activities to want to touch base on today and review with all you folks. So with that, I'm glad you're on the call, and I'd like to turn the meeting over now to Tracy.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got nothing but great responses about the webinars that we do, and we want to make sure that we are prudent with your time. So we'll jump into things. First thing we want to talk about is the goals for 2020. As you can imagine, one of our biggest goals is going to be contacts. Is everybody, do we have some for every single member of Congress? So we want to make sure that's going on right now. If you know of any contacts in your state that you do not have key contacts for, or maybe the key contacts are not up to date or not as active as they used to be, can you please take a look at that? If you do, and you need help with how to find key contacts, how to get in touch with key contacts, please reach out to one of us. We'd be more than happy to steer you in the direction of how to succeed with that. As we're in an election year, as you guys know, we're going to be coming up on needing to engage. We're going to be needing to work on getting our members engaged in talking to the candidates out there. Now is the best time for people to be getting involved. Even if you're, I was always taught that if you're working in the primaries with those candidates, then they really are going to give you a lot more, you have a lot more clout with them than if you jump in during the general, because at that point the field is narrowed and it's not so risky for you. But if you start helping with any of the campaigns, somebody that maybe you know that you like, that you want to jump in and help them with their campaigns, it is so easy to do that stuff. They need people to stuff envelopes and to make, put knock on doors and see if you can put signs in front yards and stuff like that. And that stuff matters. I'm telling y'all, I do that stuff all the time, and they remember you. And they also have your name written down. So trust me, when you want something, they're going to look it up and see what you've done for them. So something to think about. Engaging new members in advocacy, guys. I know that that's difficult right now. I know that a lot of us do not have as much one-on-one as we used to have with the different locals meeting all the time, but it's definitely doable. I know in Arizona we have different events And when we have those different events for the whole state, we can present it there. So make sure when you're having those events, it doesn't matter what the event is. I know we've got like this annual softball tournament thing that they do every year. And even in that tournament, you have time. You can make sure that they make time, maybe before you guys eat, say before you get a hamburger, we need to talk about advocacy. And get those members involved, because when it comes to the congressional conference, numbers matter. We say that all the time, but the two things that is going to make a difference to a politician or legislator here or in Washington is money and numbers. So we can't make the money appear. That's the IFAPAC's job, but we certainly can make sure that we've got people engaged. So talk to them about getting engaged. If they don't know how to get involved in a campaign, then if you don't know how, call us. And if they don't know how, have them call you. Walk them through that process. Last thing on my list for this section is developing relationships with candidates and open seats. You know, we're coming up on a campaign season, like I just said a minute ago, and that's where we need all of our members to be engaged. Because if they're engaged, and certainly if they get engaged with any of the campaigns, even if it's so much as just calling and saying, hey, you can put a sign in my yard. It's helpful if you do a little bit more, but even that is getting somewhat engaged. And it's the first step to getting your members in your state more engaged with what's going on. And those relationships count. So if you're doing that, and it's not just on the federal level. John Allen is a senator for us here in Arizona, for my district. I know him really well. I've known him and I've helped with his campaign throughout the years. And now his kids and his grandkids go to my church, and I see him at church all the time, and we chat, and we have a really good relationship. But that all started with me helping out and stuffing envelopes and going door to door and asking people if they would let us put a sign up. So there's a ton of ways to get engaged, and I really reach out to all of you and ask you that. Also, guys, if you have a question while we're walking through this process, I know that there's a thing on here. You can raise your hand or you can ask a question, and we'll be more than happy to stop it. Correct, Maggie?
Yep. If you sort of wave your mouse around, for some people it'll show up on the top of your screen, some people at the bottom, but there's a Q&A feature if you would like to ask a question. And then there's also a chat feature if there's something that you'd like to share either with the group of panelists or with everyone that's on the call. So if either of those are interest to you, please make liberal use of them.
Yeah.
Hey,
All
Tracy,
right. Yeah.
so, maybe something I failed to do at the beginning was just to thank everybody for taking time to be on the call, and those ones that are going to view it later, because as leaders in the APIC part of our association, you guys get it. We know the importance of this. And we just don't want to go through a list of, hey, we need to do this, they've got this to do, we got this to check on, and so forth. You guys, everyone on this call probably understands that the political involvement of our association is critical to our members. And our members always come back, survey after survey, saying, hey, the legislative activities that David does for me and my clients is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, that I'm a member of the association. So let's keep in mind that the things that we do and the actions and the time you put in are important, and they do yield results. And so feel good about what you're doing and encourage others to help you. This is so critical to our association and our industry and our clients. So keep that in mind as we go through these things. It's not just necessary a job, but we have a responsibility, and it's really important. It's critical. And so just thank you all for what you do for NAIFA. So with that, okay.
Well said.
Great. Okay, Mike, do you want to jump into the subject of, we'll just have a conversation, and Julie jump in, and Maggie, when it comes to contact. So we were just, I was just talking.
Tracy, really quick before you go, it has, as Mike just said it, he sort of thought he should have said at the beginning. The other thing I should have said at the beginning is, for those of you that have not seen her face, I'd like to introduce Julie Harrison to you guys. So Julie's our new state chapter director. And so she's doing a lot. You may have spoken with her previously. I know she's sort of making the rounds, but she started with us in very late 2019. And she's working to sort of augment and NAFA's state advocacy, and sort of working with our industry partners, and seeing what she can do to have home office just be a little more helpful to the states in ways that they need, whether it's legislative days on the Hill, or calls to action, gov alerts, or helping with relationship reporting. There's a myriad of things of which she's wonderful for, but she is on the call. So that's the other face you see.
Thank you.
Anyway, sorry, continue, Tracy. I just
wanted to add to what Tracy was saying earlier about making those connections. If anyone has any questions about who their state legislators are, and more importantly, where they stand on issues and how that impacts the industry, what they voted on, or even just talking points on things that are important for you to relate to that person, let us know. We can have that conversation, and we can arm you and equip you with anything you need to know to let those conversations be more impactful and fluid. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. And to that point, I am a third-party administrator, so I do qualified plans, the tax work and all, as well as investments and insurance. And as a member of NAPA, I got a alert that IRS is thinking about doing away with the voluntary compliance program, which is a huge program for small business owners and plans. And so immediately I shot off an email to Judy, and I said, hey, are you guys aware of this? Do you know if this is real, if this has some validity to it, and are we doing anything to talk them off that ledge? And she got on it right away and said, yeah, we're looking into it, blah, blah, blah. So it's just nice, just so you know, if it has to do with our reps or our agents or our clients, if you think that it's something that deals with our industry and that is going to matter to our members or our members' clients, then we certainly want to hear about that, because there are things that happen, especially on the state level. Julie, I'm sure it's vitally important that you guys, a lot of times you hear about it first, and if we can nip it in the bud, that's always the best place to start. So definitely. Yeah. Mike, do you want to jump into?
Sure, be glad to.
Okay.
And Julie, glad to have you. And you obviously as an angel, I can see the halo around your head there. So, hey.
I know. I got kicked out of my office situation right now. I've got a sick kid at home who passed out my office, so I'm holed up in the main room here. Sorry.
Okay. So
more appropriately next time.
As we talked about, and Tracy mentioned earlier about having a contact for every member of Congress. So we'd like to have, be able to touch base with these contacts each year and kind of make sure, that the contacts we have listed for the different legislators truly are and still wanting to be a contact and be involved. We'd rather it be a blank there than to have just a name parked there that has no relationship or no one willing to develop a relationship somewhere. We all want to check off the list and have someone listed, but it's really critical that what we have there is someone that's willing to participate, and rather than just park a name. So touch base with your key contacts and your federal coordinators and make sure they're still on board. We ought to do that once a year, and they're still willing, and get that updated. So that's critical. If they're not the right person, let's go ahead and remove them off the list, and we'll go about trying to find the right person to be on there. Okay.
And to that end, if you do want to follow up with your state, with who you have listed as contacts, I can send you a spreadsheet that sort of has who everybody is a contact for, as well as all their contact information. So you don't have to sort of hunt things down and do a one-on-one. If you just shoot me an email, I can get that for you. And you can go through, and even if it's just like, there's 10 contacts for your senator, you can shoot them all an email and say, hey, I see that you are a contact for Senator X. Is this something you're willing to do in 2020? Just trying to make sure that we have, the best team, people are ready to go when the time is right. And we did have a question. If someone asked Mike, if you wouldn't mind clarifying sort of what a key contact specifically is.
Okay, so let's talk about, we can, there's 3 levels that we really review is a federal coordinator, a key contact, and a legislative contact. So, and just to review this real quickly, the federal coordinator is someone who is willing to coordinate activities with a particular legislator. Maybe like keep track of the contracts, keep track of the contacts, who knows this legislator, when the meetings are, maybe knows the names of in-district assistants for that legislative offices in the district, and kind of coordinate all those activities. A key contact that we'd love to have with every member of Congress would be someone that's really kind of on a first name basis with that member of Congress. Might even have their cell phone number, but certainly would be able to recognize them right off the bat who they were, knows they're involved in NAFA, and what you do. Or if I'm a key contact, he knows that I'm an agent. This is what I work on. Walk in the room, knows my first and last name, shake hands, and a good measure is that does that key contact have a cell phone number of that congressman? Now that's hard to get sometimes, but that would be a clear sign as a key contact. Then you have the legislative contacts, and legislative contacts. Hey, I've met him a few times. He probably recognize me. I'll remind him who I am, or remind her him or her who I am, and kind of put the pieces together, but you're still developing a really tight relationship. So those would be listed as legislative contacts. So and we'd like to have build our bench, get as many people listed there that are truly in that situation. So does that make sense? Tracy, is that do good?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely great. Did you get another question, Maggie?
Can I add something really quickly to that as well?
You bet.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I know this is not a designated level of contact, but if you do look up your state legislator and you notice that they are a chairman of a particular committee that's of importance, or they're in leadership in the legislature, you would still be a significant contact, even though you may not know that person on a personal level, but they are more willing to hear from you because you are in their district and you can vote for them. So even if you don't know them, but if they are, play a significant role, I would consider you to be an important contact as well.
And that would be sort of falling under the legislative contact category. If you ever emailed us, or I'll show you later sort of the relationship reporting aspect of our Advocacy Action Center. If you came in and said, I currently do not have a relationship, but am willing to contact if needed, that's a legislative contact. If we needed somebody to call their office, to write an email, to be an extra person on a district meeting, and you're willing to do that, it doesn't matter that you don't have a relationship. It matters that you're willing to build one. And I think that's a good point that Julie made.
Yeah, and I think that there are different levels, but it does matter too. I think a lot of times people think that because they don't, like I was talking about John Allen. Yeah, I have a very good relationship with John Allen, but the other day someone said to me, one of our senators, Kirsten Sinema, had stood up when she's a Democrat, and she stood up when Trump, and clapped with something Trump had said, and everybody was just freaked, blown away by that. And so a friend of mine said, yeah, I sent her a letter and I said, you know my friend Tracy Jones, and he goes, she would know you, right? And I said, She wouldn't know my name. She would know my face. If I walked in, she would know me, but she doesn't know my name. Now, does that hold clout? Yeah, sure it does. Because when I walk in there, she knows who I am simply because I've been to her office in DC, but I've also been to her office several times here in town. And so that does have some clout because she's going to recognize that this is somebody not only that has been to my office here, but she's also traveled to DC a few times. So this girl actually does it. She cares. She's going to go the extra mile for me and for if there's a bill that needs to get passed. So
as far as you know, you're like one visit away from her remembering your name. So that's, baby steps.
Yeah. But if I keep bringing her enough wine, she will, dang on it. I just got to stop her from drinking it while I bring it to her and she forgets me. Anyway, but yeah, so don't feel like just because that you don't have this personal relationship, then that means to discount yourself or that person that says that they're a key contact. That holds weight. So, it's not just because you have this great relationship and those are the people we're looking for. We're looking for people that they would walk into a room and go, I don't know her name, but I know who she is. I know I've seen that girl, and that's going to matter to them. So.
And you also need people to come. I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so what if you look at your list of state legislators and you go through and you check and see if there's still contacts or not, and you wind up with a few blanks, right? So you got a couple new House members, or maybe a senator or House member has been around for a while, but you just don't have those contacts listed. How do you find people to be those contacts? So a couple different things that you would do is, first of all, go back and look at your folks that have attended the past 2 or 3 congressional conferences. As we look at those numbers, those people have attended, over half of those folks that have come up to DC and visited and spent their time effort and visited with congressmen are not listed anywhere as a legislative contact. And so those are people you'd be contacting to see if you could include them on a list as a legislative contact or not. And that would be a great pool of people to utilize and get them added on to either where you have zeros or you only have 2 or 3 people you're trying to build your bench. So, really look at those folks. The other folks you look at is your PAC contributors, and you start with the top PAC contributors and work your way down. Those folks should all be listed as a legislative contacts if they're substantial contributors, particularly because they get it, they're interested, and they probably know some legislators just over the years. So there's 2 good pools that you could look to and find additional contacts.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to say, because I just feel like this is such a, everybody's so focused on the federal that it's not as glamorous on the state, but I'm telling you, having those contacts on the state, it really matters. I think, gosh, it's probably been maybe 5 or 6 years now that I had started going down to the Capitol Hill every year for years, and they kept talking about this CE bill, and it never got passed. And one day I finally just said, well, how hard can it be? Why aren't we passing this? Well, that was a stupid question, because that began a 4-year journey on me getting that bill passed. But in that 4-year journey, I got to meet a lot of state legislators, and Andy Biggs, who is actually now a congressman, he was the president of the Senate, and I got to know him really well. The two of us had a few battles together, not on the same side. But we did, and we really got that relationship. So now if I want to sit down, even though he's not even in my district, if I want to have a conversation with him, he knows who I am because I took that time and I was down at that Capitol all the time passing that CE bill. So, but even if we're not talking about someone that goes to the federal side, guys, I mean, that CE bill, it was not easy to get passed. And having relationships and having people that have relationships with some of the key people in those committees is crucial. So, you know, it's across the board. It really is. So I would say really pay attention and don't forget to have those relationships in the, on that side. And most of our insurance commissioners, we call them insurance directors, for Department of Insurance, they usually come from that line too. So now you've got a commissioner that you know because you have that relationship on the state side. So it's really important. The last thing is the board members. I mean, I would say, quite frankly, if your board members are not involved with advocacy, that's a problem. They should be involved. And we definitely had, when I was on the state board, we had some board members that really didn't care too much. But if they're going to vote on whether we're going to stand for a bill or against a bill in the state, on the state side, then they doggone well we're going to be involved with advocacy, because I wasn't going to let them vote if they didn't know what they were talking about. So, you know, get them involved and really, you know, encourage them on why it's so important for them to be involved in advocacy and really understand how important that is. So, because they'll be encouraging people as well as you, and they would be great because they're going to they're already involved with the board, so they'll get involved on the legislature side too.
And yeah. I will say from the state side, that or from home office, you can sometimes see, you know, which states have a full board that is really dialed into advocacy, because it tends to translate into contacts and congressional conference numbers. You'll see, you know, a lot of the states that have, you know, that they have it in their budgets to send X number of people, or they make sure their state boards all there. You can really see sort of that passion for advocacy, sometimes in the numbers between states. You know, advocacy in a lot of ways is the mission of NAIFA. And I think when you have a state or local board that's really dialed into that, sort of trickles down throughout the entire state.
Yeah.
So let's shift to something fun that's coming up. You know, we got our congressional conference coming up in May. So as an APIC chair, how do you want that to be successful for your state? And it all starts in having people there and participating. So, you know, what kind of things can you do? So number one, right now, we've got about 350 folks that's already registered. You know, there is, as a reminder, there's a $300 stipend for folks if you're one of the first 400. So we've got, you know, we got 50 to 100 stipends left that are still available. So if I was a state chair, I would be immediately, you know, sending out an email to folks, reminding them that, hey, now's the time to sign up. There's not a lot of time left if you're going to take advantage of the stipend. Send them in your email, send them the link to the page to sign up. And so you might want to do an email to all your memberships, get your state exec to help you do that. And or particularly send a notice out to your board members and your previous congressional conference attendees, maybe a special invite email saying, hey, I know you attended before, I know you're in a leadership position, we'd love to have you in DC with us in May. And now's the time to sign up. So you can send them the link that gives them the stipulations about qualifying for the stipend. They got to attend, they got to stay at the hotel, they got to do the report, and so forth. So that is one way to encourage people to get them to sign up. It'll be a great time of year to be in DC. And Maggie, we have one or two companies that will help attendees with their expense, right?
Yeah. So we actually, Northwestern Mutual, if either you are a Northwestern Mutual agent or you know anyone, not even just in your state, in the country, who is a Northwestern Mutual agent, Northwestern Mutual will cover the stipends for all of their agents, regardless of when they register. So once the stipends run out, if you're a Northwestern Mutual agent, you can still receive the stipend from NAIFA. And once you register, you'll get an email from them. They're opening up their travel desk again for their agents, which means that their flight will be covered by Northwestern Mutual. And then Northwestern Mutual usually does a dinner and a lunch. So if you're a Northwestern Mutual agent, this is a hell of a deal, if you don't mind me saying, to come to Capitol Hill. You've got, you know, the $300 stipend, your airfare is covered, and they will feed you. And NAIFA feeds you to an extent as well. So you could really, you know, pay for a couple cabs and the tax on your hotel room, and that's the extent to how much the trip would cost. And before I hand it back to Mike, and also some other companies do dinners or lunches. I won't know that till later, but you'll normally hear from that from your company. I know previously New York Life has done meals, Thrivent, State Farm. They'll do a little something for their agents to say thank you for coming to the Hill. Also, if you are a newer chair and you are unsure as to perhaps who from your state who has attended the Congressional Conference in the past few years, feel free to shoot me an email again. I have records of all of that and can send you a nice little spreadsheet for people that you can reach out to.
So that's the first step, and it's ensuring success is getting folks up there, because many hands make for light work. So number one, get folks signed up and excited about going. And then secondly, then you've got a little bit of coordination to do to try to make sure that appointments are set on a timely basis. And as you recruit people, you'd like to have folks from every district if possible to attend. But certainly, if not, maybe have somebody from next door to attend and help coordinate the meetings, who's going to attend which meeting and who's going to team up, and to make sure that you cover as many of your state legislators as possible.
And this is coming from a guy from Florida too. Let me point out that this is not coming from someone who was once a state APIC chair for someone with 2 or 3 reps. Florida's got a few, so he knows that this is a challenge.
So
yeah, I'd also like to say it is really difficult if you just have 1 or 2 people. You're running like crazy because you're trying to hit so many legislators, and it's just you. So it's really important that you get as many people out as you can, so that you have somebody covering all of your legislators. We only meet with them this year. We're only having 1 of these events. We're not going to be here in November. So this is crucial that we have as many people come out so we can have those meetings. And then the other thing I was going to say is that unofficially, if you're wanting to come out but you're worried about the expenses, we may be able to pair you up with somebody to share a room with you. So if that's something that you are wondering or curious about, let us know, and we'll see what we can do to try to get you together with somebody. Okay. I mean, not together,
Thank you for the clarification, Tracy.
Okay. So another tip, as you try to look ahead and coordinate your appointments up there, is I've been before, and let's say, well, I saw my congressman and we had a great meeting and so forth. And I said, well, who else you see? Well, no, I just saw him. So you want to make sure that your folks, have the experience, and that we give an opportunity for all the legislators to know about NAIFA. So if you don't have people from each district, if you've got some people and they've got extra time, try to arrange so they make 2 or 3 appointments for the day. Go ahead and fill up their day and say, hey, I'm not in your district, but I have friends that's in your district, and I'm the next door district, but I wanted to come talk to you about things that affect your constituents and members of NAIFA and their clients. And go ahead and make that, reach out to those. So make sure your folks, once they're up there, they have a good experience, they have an opportunity to participate in more than 1 or 2 meetings. Get them in 3 or 4. Got to take a little coordination, but they'll find it a lot of fun. So I wish you all good luck. If I can help anybody, call me. I'll give you any help we can.
Awesome. And I will say, again, for those of you that may have not been through the Congressional Conference process before, each state does, what we do is we have every state designate what we call a Congressional Appointments Organizer, or a CAO. And so we've got one sort of main person in the state who is generally my contact, just to make sure everything's going smoothly. Sometimes that will be you as state APIC chair, sometimes it's the chapter executive, sometimes it's somebody completely different who is willing to schedule those meetings for you. So once we determine sort of who those people are, if you have any questions about the meetings in your state, if for some reason you are not that person, I'm happy to answer them. And if you are the CAO, we will be having a webinar in early April with myself and some of the other government relations staff, just to make sure that everyone's sort of comfortable with the appointment scheduling process for the Congressional Conference.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're coming by yourself, if you're the only one that you know that's coming from your state and you've never been here, and you're kind of like, I don't know, that was me. The first time I came here, I was the only one here from Arizona, and I thought, what in the world have I gotten into? And they said, okay, here are all your meetings. My first meeting was with Senator John Kyle, who was a senator for a bazillion years. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I literally was sitting in front of the office waiting to go in, thinking, okay, we'll see what happens. And Pat Raffanella came walking up, and he's one of our lobbyists, and walked me through it. And that day I learned more from that guy than I ever learned since. But I just don't want you to feel like you're going to be hanging out there by yourself. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of, and that, you know, certainly you're not going to be walking in to talk to the Speaker of a House or something like that without some, you know, muscle behind you. So we'll take care of you.
Yeah, so even if it's not the Speaker of the House, if you guys, if there's a meeting where, you know, maybe you only have a couple of people coming from your state and they're relatively new, or this meeting has coverage with only 3 people and they're first time attendees, and, you know, you as the organizer might be a little nervous, but you can't make that meeting, do let me know that, because when we schedule lobbyists and other Washington reps to attend those appointments, I can sort of star that one and say, hey, maybe this one needs a little bit, just a little extra hand holding, and we're happy to do that when the time comes. But that's what I got on Congressional Conference. Tracy or Mike, did you guys have anything else before we moved on?
Nope.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm gonna take a second, and for those of you on the phone, I apologize. I'm gonna try and paint a pretty picture. But for those of you that have your screens, I'm gonna share my screen really quick with you guys, and show you just a couple of things that we've got going on in advocacy. And so the first one, can you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. We now have this lovely Advocacy in Action blog. So we are doing more to sort of try and highlight the great work that you guys are doing, whether or not you can see we've got, you know, NAFA Iowa came to the Hill. We've got a member in Seattle who actually, I believe, is the APIC chair for Washington State, if I clicked in there, but that did a letter to the editor in Legislative Breakfast. You can see sort of there's a myriad of things going on, but we've got this new blog. And so if there's anything that you think would be great to sort of highlight in the blog, either you have a really great meeting, you've got some pictures from your day on the Hill, what may it be, if you want to send those to myself or to Julie, we'd love to get some stuff up on the blog and sort of showcase what you guys in your state are doing, because you guys are doing a lot of stuff. Additionally, I know I've been talking probably ad nauseum about the Advocacy Action Center, and so I wanted to show it to you guys again. And the most important part, you'll see here, this is my profile. So as we go through, if you do log in here, all you'll need is your email. And when you go to my profile, I must be logged in to view this page, which means that it did not hold. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry. Loading. And so what you'll see here is these are some tests. If you have taken action and sent an email, what you'll see here is the action itself and the letter you sent. These are tests on my end, so my record does look a little wonky. And then you'll see, I'm sort of sharing this all with you guys now, but this is my IFAPAC annual summary. You yourselves can see how much money you've given to IFAPAC. And then you can also click here to view your grassroots connections. And so here you can report a relationship, or you can sort of copy paste this link and send it to folks in your state to report their relationship. We've gotten some feedback since we sort of launched this on ways that we can make it a little more user-friendly as far as instructions are concerned, and we're working on that. But if you have any other feedback, let me know. But what you can see here are these are the state's legislators representing my address. I currently have no personal relationships for both federal or state. But for example, if I were to say, you know, I have a relationship with Congressman Don Beyer, or rather, I don't have a relationship with Don Beyer, I can say I have no relationship, but am willing to build one. And so what I can do here is I'll click on Don Beyer and add the selected relationship. And so then once you'll go down here and see my relationships, you'll see the relationship has been submitted to NAIFA. You'll see it's submitted to NAIFA and it doesn't come up as a key contact or a legislative contact. Is I'm sure as you've been collecting key contacts and legislative contacts, sometimes people have a hard time self-selecting what category they're into. I've gotten more than one email over the years that has said, I attended a fundraiser for this senator in 1995, I am his key contact. And so on our end, we like to try and do a little, just, you know, clean that stuff up, and that's how we do that. If I was to be a contact for someone that I wasn't a member of, they weren't my direct member of Congress, I can search for additional federal legislators here. And so I can pick a state, or I can do all states. For example, let's see what happens if I type. So I typed in Cortez. I was thinking I was going to get AOC, but that's not who I got. I got Senator Cortez Masto, I think, but I can tell about relationship. Again, if I were to do that, I could tell about the relationship, click on it, add the relationship. So these folks will come up. I will say the system itself, if you're in here, is a tiny bit picky. So if you do sort of, if they are somebody that has two last names, or if you miss a letter, it's not like Google. It's not going to say, did you mean? It's going to tell you that nobody exists. So double check sort of when you're typing, but that's what we've got here. So for those that think that it would be great to do like a wide scale, I would like to email all of the members in my state and see who they know, but it's going to be a lift for me to keep all that, you know, send all that information, keep it all in. You can send an email and have this link and say, do you have a relationship? Tell us about it here. And it'll get logged directly into our system, so that there is no, you know, sort of difference between them sending an email back to you, sending an email to me, putting it in, you know, it's a sort of a one-to-one system, which I think makes it really great. And if you would, that also works with state legislators. I know a lot of states do keep that state legislator information sort of on their own, which is great. So if people do track state legislator relationships, send in state legislator relationships, we will get those back to the state, so you guys have those for your information as well. That being said, now that I've said state, oh, that's a great question. So Mike Peters says, how do I change my address from my office to my home if different districts show for the legislators? So what you're going to have to do is go to the NAIFA website. I can actually show you this really quick here. And if you sign in the corner, hoping this all works like it's supposed to, you'll go to the sort of the NAIFA community and you'll have your profile here. So up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see my profile. And you can change your address in here when you hit edit on professional information or personal information. So it does, unfortunately, because of the way we do imports, it takes about 24 hours for that all to get fixed up, but you won't have to do it again going forward. What happens in our system is if you have not provided your home address to NAIFA, we pull on your business address, because for everybody that is required. But with that, hopefully, if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them into the chat box or the Q&A box. But I am actually going to give Julie a second to sort of say hi before we end.
I think there was a question there.
Was there?
The reason for not having the conference in November.
Oh, Rhonda.
Well, happily defer to you.
Hi, Rhonda. Yeah. So the reason we're not having the conference in November is we are just sort of At this moment, and I will say right now, I believe the meeting that Rhonda is referring to is the National Advocacy meeting. The National Advocacy meeting for 2020 is being rolled into the leaders meeting in Orlando. We're not in Orlando this year, in Boston at P+P. I'm sorry, we've been back and forth with Orlando. And so what we're doing right now, and this is just for 2020, is looking at the resources that we have, NAFA as a whole, and saying where are the best places, you know, to sort of look at things. This is not to say we will not be having this meeting in 2021, but it was largely a financial decision. And so going forward, we hope to bring this meeting back in some form. It might not. In fact, I would actually be surprised if it looked exactly like it did this past November. But what we will have is some great APIC grassroots programming for you in Boston in October. So if you have that on your calendar, and if you don't, it's October 1st through 4th. So thank you, Rhonda. And if anybody has any additional questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me and we can talk offline. But that said, let me pass it off to Julie.
Thanks, Maggie. You guys have this so well covered. I am so impressed with NAFA's strategy on the grassroots and the ability to connect members with, you know, people of, you know, elected positions. It's so important. You know, and I think it's just important to remind NAFA members why this is important, remind them of the types of issues that are really going to impact the industry, and why these relationships are so integral. You know, Tracy, for example, in Arizona just a couple weeks ago, there was a really important annuity suitability bill that NAFA had very key contacts, key members, have close personal relationships with the sponsor of the bill, and, you know, we're willing and able to reach out, and, you know, just that little, you know, couple people make a huge difference. It is really important. You know, members are the most effective advocates out there, and, you know, we're so big in numbers, and just keep up the good work and remind everybody why this is so important. Please feel to come to me again if you ever need help doing a little, you know, research on your legislator and their issues and their voting history. I'm happy to talk with you about that and anything else you guys might want assistance with in the policies that are happening in your state. So
awesome. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah.
All right, Tracy, Mike, do you guys have anything else?
I don't. Thank you all again
so
for showing up for the meeting, and hopefully we got you some information that is going to leave you walking away with a little more pep in your step. So thanks so much. Did it.
Well, thanks so much all for being here. And our next call is going to be on April 22nd. And we're going to be sort of focusing on how to build and continue to build relationships specifically after a large scale fly-in like the Congressional Conference. So it should be timely. And so we hope to see all your names on April 22nd and see you at the Congressional Conference in May.
Thanks,
all.
Bye.
Bye.